Now before we start the video, and as always, I just want to say a big thank you to Diamond Bright for continuing their support and sponsorship of this channel. So please bear with me while I say thanks guys for continuing to support and sponsor this channel. This Mini is very filthy after its week away getting an MOT. It's going to be feeling the benefit of some Diamond Bright products very shortly and be looking spick and span and beautiful as it should do very soon as well. If you'd like to try some as well, check the links in the description below. And also before the 20th of December, you have the chance to win their big Christmas pack. There's a competition, which I'll put a link in the description below too as well. So get entering, get winning, get washing. And now enjoy the video. Well, hello. This may look vaguely familiar to the video you saw probably about a week ago of the Alfa 145 when I was setting off in the Mini to go and collect the Alfa from its MOT and extensive works. And because I couldn't get a lift, I thought I'd move the Mini's MOT up forward, well, about 4 weeks, and get that tested so I could take it off the road in January. Well, guess what? It's passed! Hurrah! MOT certificate. Slightly odd one. Well, two things first of all. First, well, that thermostat, that temperature gauge, that's the first time that has shown anything above freezing since I started, because the thermostat is gone. I did actually phone before I left this morning to order a new thermostat for this car, so that is on the way. Also, before the MOT was done, Trevor at the garage did fix the airbag light, which has been permanently on for about 10 months. It was a wire in this seat which has now been taken care of, so it's now not going to come on again. In fact, it's been kind of weird driving around the motorway with not a whole load of lights on the dashboard. I was actually thinking something was wrong because there's no warning lights going on. Well, let's have a quick walk around the car and then take it for a quick drive the rest of the way home. The car is looking good. So I've stopped in the same place on the way home as before. The car does look fantastic. There's a very muddy little lane where my friend's garage is. He doesn't do the MOTs himself. He does like a pre-flight inspection, finds any problems that I've missed, fixes stuff I can't fix, and takes it to a local garage for the actual MOT. Of course, this is a member of the Y register. Slightly strangely, a bit curious, car came back with 3 advisories. First of all, oil leak. All the cars he gets MOTs come back with advisory on oil leak, because the garage up there seems to just kind of cover themselves by saying there's an oil leak on everything for some reason. Then it said there was corrosion on the brake lines and corrosion underneath, very vaguely. I asked Trevor about this. He said he hadn't noticed anything worth commenting on when he was looking at the car himself. So I'm going to go over it. I was planning on wax oiling the car when it's a bit warmer actually. I'm not really using it anymore this year. I'll go through it very, very thoroughly to make sure I've not missed anything. Well, I might even give the garage a call to see what they think they found. It may just be surface corrosion that needs to be wax oiled, which I'm kind of hoping it is. That's more than likely what they found. They found some surface rust and they've commented on it. But the car was due for a full wax oil underneath anyhow to protect it. I'll give the brake lines a blooming good check as well, make sure, hopefully if it's just surface corrosion I can sand that and then rust proof it. Right, let's go drive the rest of the way home and have a little in-car GoPro-age of the drive. Now I'm sure you probably can see this. This is a proper little smackaroony. Don't open there. I can tell from the car was parked. You know, the car didn't see it in the fog this morning, but that was quite the shunt. So yeah, not far to go home in this car now. You can all see, if you, I'm sure you can see the instruments on that GoPro. As soon as we hit a faster bit of road, the temperature will drop off immediately. Where the car's been idling for a minute or two, I did that little tiny piece to camera. The car actually got quite warm for a moment. Now apparently the thermostat for the Mini, you have to buy it with the housing all as one component. I was a bit worried when they said that, but it's still apparently under 20 quid including VAT, so that's not a big thing. So I'll do that and change all the coolant on this thing. We are actually very close to Stone Cold, so I might just call in there and see if that Corrado, which unfortunately sold before I could drive it, is still around. It might be quite nice to have a quick walk around of that. Well, I missed out on driving the Corrado because it sold just so ridiculously quickly, but I can still take a quick walk around it before it gets picked up. I'm not going to drive it anywhere today. Lots of exciting cars, always exciting cars here at Stone Cold. This one, hopefully we'll get a driver very soon. That one I think may have sold already, so I don't know. But this Corrado, everyone was keen for me to drive. I was keen for me to drive. Look at the condition of this car. It's a VR6 as well. Still being detailed. Well, the outside is detailed, the inside's not detailed yet, but look at this thing. Look at these tail lights, the crystal clear quality of that plastic. I was really looking forward to driving this car. I'm actually quite disappointed someone bought it. It's a Stone Cold Classic, so quite happy someone's bought it. We have different agendas though. Right, so we now know the alarm works on this car. Let's have a quick look around the interior. Look at this leather, look at these beautiful padded doors. Electric mirrors, electric windows, quite old school looking switches on this thing. But look at these leather bucket seats, these are way too comfortable to be going into a sports car. Oh, smell leather and carpet and Germany in, I guess, the early 90s, late 80s, that kind of really distinctive smell. This is great. So original. Leather steering wheel feels amazing. And look at these kind of, I think these are the Mark III Polo switches, aren't they? And we've got these great dials, lovely, whoops. Clearly got a Sony radio from the Bip Bop Bip Bop. Again, we've got this kind of retro styling on these little buttons here. Kind of a dimpled square pattern all over everything, actually, across the lot of these as well. The rotators and the adjusters, the air vents. And then so back to the dials, sorry, yes, I got distracted by the Bip Bop Bip Bops. The big LCD down there. Let's try and get the lights on for this thing. Yes, we can. We have a big rocker switch for the lights. Well, check out the illumination on that light switch. Does that show up? That's quite cool, isn't it? Like in the Metro, we seem to have lighting from above for the dials and then backlighting for the LCD, sorry, not the LEDs. There we go, let's turn the polarizer so you can see properly. Yeah, big clear dial, 160 on the speedo. And yeah, got the matching set of trio of dials there. And interestingly, looking at these dials, looking at these indicators down the bottom, they're still using the old LED pressed into the dashboard kind of thing, like on the old Mark II Polos and the early Golfs and things. So I'm amazed they've stuck with that so far into the future then, the past then. Down here on the in the centre we've got the Sony radio, which was bip-bopping us a second ago. No air conditioning because it's a car of that generation. We have got heated seats though. Check this, heated seats, but in a weird position. You've seen heated seats up here by the indicator stalk before. Sometimes they're down here, but not often up there. A 5-speed gearbox, lovely leather gear shift and leather gaiter as well. And Carman. I didn't know these were Carman built. Learning even for me, because I'm only doing a walk around on this car, just happened to be calling in, I thought I'd go and quickly look in. I didn't really do any research on it, so it's not a car I actually know anything about. Big old glove box, no T-shelf, it's a very small T-shelf, semi T-shelf here, just put a few bits and bobs in there. Bit of a good T-shelf going on up here, which is handy for brakes. Got an electric sunroof, oh this lovely headlining is very soft. And we've got some little back seats, so it's 2 actual bucket seats, not a bench, if that makes sense. So it's definitely a 4-seater at most. We've got what looks like a lift up here as first aid for a Green Cross first aid kit. We've got first aid in the centre armrest. Let's just start it as well. Oh, V6-ness. Oh, listen to that. Lovely. Seriously disappointed I couldn't take the front wheel drive. Look at that, and listen to that. How can Mark II does this justice? That terrible screeching noise is actually the shutter door, not the car. There we go. Look how clean this car is. You see the mileage on it. It looks even. Someone is going to be very happy with this car. Sadly it won't be me, because someone's already bought it. Oh, this is that verbal. Beautiful. But one thing about cars of the 90s, you look at the suspension height and think, my god, what's wrong with that thing? But that's just how they came back then. Well, that is one very nice car. Another nice car, which people kept asking, am I going to take it for a drive in the comments, but I'm not, because it's too similar to my own, is this one. Alfa 145, but a 1.4. I mean, to all intents and purposes, you look under the bonnet and it looks exactly the same, just very, very tidy. It's original strut tops that haven't needed to be welded, but this is the baby of the bunch. Down here where I've got cloverleaf badges, it's just got plastic panels. If you open the driver's door, there's no steering wheel. This is a left-hand drive car. I think it came from, did you say Greece or Malta? Yeah, so this is a similar year to mine, quite a late one. This actually has 2002 on the logbook. I don't know if that's the year it came to the UK or the year it was actually built. It may have been a very late registered one perhaps. But yeah, left-hand drive car, so the steering wheel is the same. The dials are all the same, but this is a facelift car. You may have noticed from the front bumpers. And facelift cars on the continent, left-hand drive ones, got a new dashboard. So they've got this different kind of more swoopy, curvy thing, a bit more smooth plastic, different buttons for the aircon and the dials, different radio. It's fabric inserts in the dashboard here and here. Airbags the same, fabric inserts over here. This is all different to the right-hand drive cars, which never got updated. They just soldiered on with the same old, same old. So there, this is a very nice car, but again, this one's sold at the weekend as well. But people did keep asking, was I going to take it for a drive? But no, basically I'm not, because it's really the same car as I've already got, just a little bit slower. I guess slightly softer suspension. But yeah, this is the facelift dashboard that we never got in the UK or anywhere else they sold right-hand drive versions. So yeah, very, very different indeed. Well, very different, quite different-ish. Same really comfortable bucket sports seats. These are wonderfully comfortable seats. Lovely Alfa Romeo script in red, actually, I like that. I've only got the Alfa Circle on mine. To have Alfa Romeo floor mats as well. Oh, that's interesting, the facelift cars get different air vents in the door as well. Hadn't noticed that before. And the same fabric as the dashboard. Because on mine it's a leather clad car, so it's got leather door cards. Whereas this is a fabric car, so it's got fabric door cards. I forget what the Mark 1 right-hand drive cars had in their doors. But yeah, this is a Series 2. Oh, one other thing I noticed, the same slightly strange hard material for the headlining. This is a facelift, as I say, so we've got the softer curvy bumpers. I haven't got the big plastic insert front and back. I've got this the roof spoiler. Does look good in silver. I prefer my wheels though. Interesting, this has got Toyo proxies on it as well, which is what my car's got. It is a very nice car, which I think has also sold now. Pretty car, very rare car in this country. I don't know where this car's going to go, whether it's going to stay in the UK or if someone, perhaps with a holiday home abroad, is going to take it and leave it to live somewhere in like France or Italy or Spain, where it'd be absolutely perfect being a left-hand drive. And looking at the tag in the windscreen, what country is that from? Yeah, very nice car. So yeah, two cars which I managed to miss out on here at Stone Cold. Let's get back in the Mini and get some lunch. Well, that was interesting, and the Alfa in particular, because it's always interesting when you look at left-hand drive, right-hand drive versions of cars, of versions from different countries, and they've got options and things that we never got in this country, for example. So yeah, it's quite interesting. When I did the review of the 145 as like a Ghost for a Drive review about a year ago, lots of comments from people watching the car in other countries saying, well, how come you've got the wrong dashboard in it? And well, that's the reason. In the UK, that's the correct dashboard. We never got an update, which is really odd, because it's only the centre section that changed. You'd think they would have transferred that over as well, but they didn't. Maybe it's just such a slow seller in this country by that point that I didn't think it was worth the investment, because the 147 was obviously just around the corner, and that Corrado is just beautiful. I hate saying time warp about any car because it's such an utter cliche, but then you get into something like that and it is fantastic. Yeah, it is like stepping back to, I forgot what year I said that was, early 90s. So yeah, there you have it. Right, I'm going to go and swing by and collect the thermostat for this car. Grimy actually. I'm still looking at this dashboard, which which is not covered in lights, and going, oh my god, there's a bulb out! Something's broken! The dashboard's broken, probably! But then I do indicate. There we go, it's indicate. And we've got warning lights there, so all is good. This bridge here, oh, it's this one, isn't it? That's why there's been roadworks here for, well, forever apparently. Oh, when was it? Was it the beginning of lockdown? I can't remember now. No, it was earlier than that. That was where a truck carrying a digger was over height, and it took a bridge down. There's a footbridge across the motorway, and the load on the back of the truck struck the footbridge and brought it down across the carriageway. And there was the luckiest motorbike rider in the world, because he was riding alongside a HGV as he went underneath the bridge, and the bridge came down. Okay, that's not very lucky to start with, but the truck took the weight of the bridge and saved his life, as I remember. I hope that's true and he's okay now. Well, here I am back home, and now I've got a little green box which contained a thermostat housing and a thermostat. You can't buy the two separately apparently. I guess there's been enough issues in the past with these things breaking or the thermostat being jammed in there that they no longer sell them as separate items perhaps. I've been reading up through the mini handbook, the Haynes manual. It's slightly poignant today because they've announced today they're going to stop doing Haynes manuals in the future. Certainly printed versions as we know them, no new ones because there's no demand apparently, which is quite sad for people like us who go and tinker with our cars. What it says though is I've got to take the battery out in the battery box, which block access to the thermostat, which is down there. It's quite full, you can see that down there, but it doesn't look that colourful, that liquid anymore. So luckily I did stop and buy a new gallon of fresh coolant as well. What I've got to do is take the bottom hose pipe off and drain the tank out, so I'll do that in a second. What else is there to do? Yeah. Oh yeah, I was going to, I don't know if I said this in the car on the way around or not, I was going to drop the Tomcat around because that's got an MOT due in the first week of January. It's a spiderweb. That's got an MOT during the first week of January as well, so I thought, yeah, I could keep on shuffling cars back and forth. But after the expense of the Alfa and yeah, the airbag job on top of the MOT on this, plus the convertible still needs to get an MOT, although I'm kind of putting that off now because I'm just worried that if it does go for an MOT and they need extra work, it's going to need even more money spent on it. And December's been expensive already, so that might just live under a cover until January and be ignored. Just gradually improving until then. I'm not quite sure really. Yeah. I didn't have the correct hose clamp for those new kind of spring-loaded clampy things, but a pair of mole grips does seem to suffice. And the radiator hose has drained out a lot of it. Does look very clear indeed, considering it's meant to be coolant. This is now all gone. Is this empty as well? Draining down still. Not quite empty yet. Interesting. I'll lower this off the jack because that is on the upside at the moment, so I'll take the stands out and I'll lower this down so it drains out some more. You can just about make do with a pair of mole grips instead of these special pliers, but they're really hard to manoeuvre and I'm struggling to get this back into the right place now, which is a bit of a pain. When it's a screwdriver to push along, damn, that's happening a lot. Right, that's all drained. That, though, is pretty horrible stuff. It looks black and horrible because I used an oil catch can. There's not oil coming out of the coolant system in case you're worried. But I will say this is still pretty disgusting stuff and you want to be disposing of that safely and cleanly as possible and hosing the drive down afterwards because this will kill cats and dogs if they lick it, and apparently it smells quite nice to them as well, so you need to be dealing with that fairly promptly and not leaving it overnight and dealing with that on tomorrow. Because let's start cracking on with this. Now first of all, I'm going to take the battery out, which is a bit of a pain. Walk on that. This all needs to come out as well. It's a bit of an annoyance. Just going to find, I think it's a 10mm. Back in a second. And not very surprisingly, when I rang up to go and get the thermostat for this car, that really wasn't an issue. They had that on the shelf, I think it was. In fact, because I've got a trade account there, the thermostat was home before I was. When I went to go and call in and collect it, they were quite surprised. Because, yeah, they'd already sent someone down with it. The Alfa, not surprisingly, is another story. They are currently looking for one for me. But yes, the Alfa, as I was saying, the Alfa, unsurprisingly, is less easily forthcoming. They found one they could get for me next day, Again, it's the complete housing with thermostat. They couldn't find that on its own. That's 65 quid in aluminium housing. He said there's another one which was a mere £45. But that one was going to be a couple of days. Oh, you've got to take the ECU out. I hate taking the ECU out. This doesn't really hurt. It's like being shot in the chest. I hate being shot in the chest. Name that film. I have to say it was a lot easier to do this job on the Tomcat. Well, I should have flushed the coolant at the same time, I admit that. Oh, one battery box removed. So now I can see, oh, it's another one of those stupid things. One thermostat housing, a couple of bolts down here, a couple of hose clamps to undo. It should all come off relatively easily. Now I know there's not really a lot for you to see while I'm doing this. Of me struggling to gain access to this last one, which is really well hidden. Maybe a spanner. It's the kind of bolt you need to remove the item before you can undo it. Maybe a ratcheting spanner will do it. Sometimes these bendy ends are really handy, and other times they're an absolute pain. I must get some proper pliers for these things. Now, before I go any further, before this falls out in fact, I just want to see which way around the thermostat goes. It looks very orange and murky. Okay, it's the stubby short end that's going into the housing. So I guess the longer end going into the body. I'm kind of tempted to replace these with just Jubilee clips because they're a lot less hassle. I'm sure these are very fast in the factory, but they're a nuisance later on. And there is the old thermostat, which looks... Actually, yeah, very completely jammed. I can't even push it with a screwdriver. So I guess that's why. Oh, that's really stiff. I guess that's why it wasn't opening. Ah, God, that hurts. What to do that on? I'll tell you what, without the correct special circle, like sort of hose clamp tool, I cannot get that last one off. It is absolutely refusing to. It's really inaccessible. But looking at or examining the old housing, which is the original one that came with the car, I'm kind of keen to keep the original parts on the car as much as possible anyway. That one actually looks fine. There's no gasket to the body of the engine on the plastic unit itself. It's just this rubber gasket that comes with the thing. So I'm going to stick with the original one, monitor in use, and if it's all hunky-dory, I'll leave it as is. If it causes any leakages and that kind of problem, then I'll correct it later on. That is the thermostat in the housing. This is the new housing. This is most of what I just paid for in the 16 quid plus VAT, but I'll stick this in the cupboard. Hang on to it for the time being. Oh, I hate these things so much. Fortunately, the shape of that big rubber gasket is like a figure 8 almost, and it kind of has to fit in a certain way. As I say, it's amazing how much fluid coolant actually was in the pipes. When I disconnected them, an awful lot came falling out of the engine, the pipework. So there's a lot of hosing to be done before I finish tidying up today. Refilling of these cooling systems is a bit weird, because, well, not weird really, it's just different to old-fashioned ones like I'm used to. There's a couple of air vent holes that I need to open up before I start topping it up in a second. And Hayes' book didn't actually mention any kind of torque settings, which I'm surprised at. Not too tight, not too loose. Unrelated to cooling systems, when I was underneath the car, or looking underneath the car, I did glance around and I couldn't see anything actually making a physical hole in the car, but there was quite a lot of surface rust on the chassis and the suspension and things like that, which I knew anyway, because that's why I was planning on giving it a really good clean up before it does become rust. I think that's what the MOT guy was just covering himself with. I also just noticed a bit of chafage on these wire shrouds as well, which isn't good. Now we have got too small of a screwdriver. Right, so as I was saying, got a lead screw here in the top hose for the radiator. And we've got a bleed screw down here near the coolant filler. And there's a third one, which the book says you probably won't need to do exactly, only if you have to. It's down there on the front of the block. I'm hoping I don't, because I can't even see it. I did go and get some of the correct coolant for this ready to go. Now it does say to put in a litre of, this is deionised water, first of all. I've got a feeling the camera's not recording. This is going to be a slow job. I need to wait for bubbles to appear at the cooling vents that I've opened. Now, having seen the coolant that's come out of this, and considering it's going to be a really nasty winter by the looks of things, I'm rather glad I'm doing this now. There's a tiny drop, but only the bit I ran down the front. Always worth checking that when you're pouring fluid into a car, it's not falling out somewhere else. I wonder if I can buy these screws new, because these are not in great condition. I suspect this has been done a couple of times before, which is a good thing. That's about as full as that's going to get. So I'm going to put the battery back in and top up the expansion tank. Right, now, the book says start the engine, fan on full, on hot, and away we go. Keep an eye on this, make sure it's dropped down by the max line. Inside the car, got this on full, that's just on 1, doesn't really matter where that one's going. And now we wait for the temperature to rise. Gosh, where's my petrol gone? Hopefully this will give me better fuel economy from now on, because if it's running to the correct temperature, it will be burning more efficiently. Well, that's only been a minute or two, and already that's up a quarter of the way. Also keeping an eye out for any extra leaks beyond what was coming out already. Temperature gauge seems happy. I'll take this for a quick drive in a second and then just double check all of that. Well, I don't know if you can see that clearly enough, but that there is the temperature gauge, and on a very cold, minus 24 degrees, minus 28 degrees centigrade road apparently. Would you believe the GoPro went flat halfway through the sentence when I was just test driving the car? Typical GoPro 8. Great camera quality, great audio quality. Well, okay, audio-ish quality, but awful battery life. Absolutely terrible. Never mind, but hey, that was good. Drove it several miles, sat completely in the right place, midway on the gauge, all the way through. Doesn't seem to be losing any fluid. So now I'm just going to hose down the few little drops I spilt when I was filling the car, deal with that little can of stuff over there, pour it into something horrible, and then job done. So great, I've got a mini that's now MOT'd, running with fresh coolant so it won't crack its engine in the winter time, and as a working thermostat so it's going to run efficiently, and I can actually have warm feet when I'm driving it if I drive it in the winter, which I probably won't though, because I don't want salt underneath it. Whoops. Right, so well, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, please hit like and subscribe as always. Hit the bell notification for more antics when they appear, and I'll see you again next time doing something else on one of these other cars. Take care, everybody.